Did you know that one single decision made in Washington, D.C. can directly impact the price of your rent, your groceries, and the gas you put in your car? It sounds dramatic, but it's the reality of the world we live in. We're constantly bombarded with news headlines about economic policies, interest rates, and inflation. The news is great at telling you what happened, but it often fails to explain why it matters to you. They'll say the Fed raised rates, but what does that actually mean for your wallet? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and connect the dots. We're going to translate that complex economic jargon into simple, practical knowledge you can use every day. This isn't just about understanding the news. It's about understanding the forces that shape your life and your future. So, let's start with the absolute basics. What makes the U.S. economy tick? You can think of it like a giant complex engine that runs on three main types of fuel: spending, borrowing, and confidence. First, spending. This is the most straightforward one. When you, your neighbors, businesses, and the government buy goods and services, money circulates. You buy a coffee, the coffee shop pays its employees, and those employees then go out and spend their wages. This creates a cycle of economic activity. More spending generally means a healthier, growing economy. It's the lifeblood of commerce. Next up is borrowing, which is essentially future spending. When you take out a loan for a car, or a business borrows to build a new factory, you're promising to spend money you'll earn in the future. This is crucial for big purchases and investments that most people and companies afford to pay for with cash up front. Borrowing allows for growth and expansion that wouldn't be possible otherwise. The government does this on a massive scale, borrowing money to fund everything from infrastructure projects to social programs. The ability to borrow easily and cheaply is a key indicator of economic health. But the most important, and perhaps the most fragile part of this engine, is confidence. Confidence is the belief that the future will be stable or better than the present. If people are confident, they spend more and invest more. They feel secure in their jobs and are willing to take on debt for a new home because they believe they can pay it back. Businesses invest in new equipment and hire more staff because they anticipate future demand. But when confidence wavers, everything can grind to a halt. People start saving more and spending less, fearing a downturn. Businesses delay investments. This is why you often hear politicians and economists talking about consumer confidence or business sentiment. It's not just a feeling. It's a powerful economic force that can either accelerate growth or trigger a recession. These three elements, spending, borrowing, and confidence, are all interconnected, creating a delicate dance that determines the direction of the entire economy. Now, how does the government or a central bank influence this flow of money? The most powerful tool they have is the interest rate. You've definitely heard about the Federal Reserve, or the Fed, raising or lowering interest rates. So what does that actually do? Think of interest rates as the price of borrowing money. When the Fed wants to cool down the economy, perhaps because things are getting too heated and prices are rising too fast, they raise interest rates. This makes it more expensive for you to get a mortgage, for a business to get a loan, or even for you to carry a balance on your credit card. Higher borrowing costs mean less borrowing, and less borrowing means less spending. People put off buying that new car. Companies pause their expansion plans. This slowdown is intentional. It's like tapping the brakes on the economy to prevent it from overheating. On the flip side, when the economy is sluggish and needs a boost, the Fed does the opposite. They lower interest rates. Suddenly, borrowing money becomes cheaper. That mortgage you were considering now has a lower monthly payment. Businesses see an opportunity to borrow cheaply to fund new projects and hire more people. This encourages more borrowing, which leads to more spending and investment. It's like hitting the accelerator to get the economic engine running faster. This simple mechanism of adjusting interest rates is the primary way the Fed tries to steer the economy, balancing the need for growth against the risk of things getting out of control. It's a constant balancing act with huge consequences for everyone. So why would the Fed ever want to slow down the economy by raising rates? The main enemy they're fighting is inflation. You've felt its effects every time you go to the grocery store and see that your bill is higher than it was last year for the same items. Inflation is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising, and subsequently, the purchasing power of currency is falling. In simple terms, your dollar buys less than it used to. A little bit of inflation, say around 2% per year, is generally considered healthy for an economy. It encourages people to spend and invest their money rather than hoarding it, since it will be worth less in the future. However, when inflation gets too high, it becomes a serious problem. It acts like a silent tax that erodes your savings and your wages. If your salary increases by 3%, but inflation is 5%, you've actually taken a 2% pay cut in terms of what you can actually buy. High inflation creates uncertainty and can destabilize the entire economy. This is why central banks are so focused on keeping it under control. They raise interest rates to slow down spending, which reduces the demand for goods and services. When demand falls, businesses can't raise prices as easily, and inflation starts to come down. It's a tough medicine to swallow because slowing the economy can lead to job losses, but it's often seen as necessary to prevent the long-term damage of runaway inflation. Now, let's zoom out from the national economy and look at the bigger picture. Because the decisions made in the U.S. don't just stay in the U.S., they have a massive ripple effect across the entire globe. This is largely because of the unique status of the U.S. dollar. The dollar is the world's primary reserve currency. What does that mean? It means that most international trade is conducted in dollars. When Brazil sells soybeans to China, the transaction is usually priced and paid for in U.S. dollars, not in Brazilian reals or Chinese yuan. Essential commodities like oil are priced in dollars. Because of this, countries all over the world need to hold vast reserves of dollars to participate in the global economy. This gives the United States an extraordinary amount of power and influence. When the Fed raises interest rates, it doesn't just make borrowing more expensive in America. It makes it more expensive for the whole world. A stronger dollar means that other countries have to pay more in their local currency to buy the dollars they need for trade, or to pay back their dollar-denominated debts. This can cause financial crises in emerging markets and affect economies thousands of miles away. U.S. economic policy isn't just domestic policy, it's global policy. A recession in the U.S. can trigger a global recession because when American consumers stop buying, factories from Mexico to Vietnam feel the pain. Understanding this global connection is key to seeing the full scope of economic power. So, as you can see, these aren't just abstract concepts discussed by academics in ivory towers. From the price of your morning coffee to the stability of the global financial system, these economic forces are shaping our daily lives in profound ways. In the past, maybe you could afford to ignore this stuff. But today, understanding the basics of economics is no longer optional. It's essential survival knowledge. It empowers you to make smarter financial decisions, to see through the political spin, and to better prepare for the future. It allows you to understand the world not just as it's presented to you, but as it actually works. The goal isn't to become an economist, but to become an informed citizen who can navigate the complexities of the modern world with confidence. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this explanation helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content that breaks down the big issues. Let me know in the comments what other complex topics you'd like to see untangled. See you in the next video.